Anunnaki also translates into those who came from heaven to earth. They lived on the distant planet Nibiru, which orbits our solar system for a period of 3,600 years. They describe it as a place multiplied many times the diameter of the planet Earth, full of iron oxide, which makes it mostly red in color. Nibiru is a gas giant plasma and was once like the Earth, green and beautiful, but the irrational activity of its inhabitants gradually transformed it in a burning sphere. Translated, its name means the point of intersection for something like a door. It is supposed that it's an artificial asteroid that has been used as a vehicle and was probably carved from the inside like a comet or an asteroid. According to the plates, Nibiru's atmosphere began to deteriorate and the atmosphere was no longer suitable for any conditions for living. To restore it, they needed a very valuable resource, gold. And here are a few interesting facts in this regard. It is proven that nanoparticles, for example, gold can repair and restore the ozone layer. Practically, it becomes like a radiation shield, which explains why NASA uses gold foil in their space stations. In 2008, in a cave in the Iraqi desert, a tomb was discovered, intact, worthy of a true king, full of all kinds of gold treasures, and in the middle was found a black stone sarcophagus with Sumerian inscriptions. When the sarcophagus was opened, scientists have come across a 3-meter giant with long fading signs of life, adorned with a huge amount of gold jewelry. Interesting moment is that the mummy looked as if it had fallen asleep 2 hours ago, and of course it's believed that this is one of these so-called gods, Anunnaki. Scholars find profound similarities between the myths of the Anunnaki and the Nephilim. In 1971, Edward Lipinski published a scientific analysis of several ancient texts, including an Old Babylonian version of the Epic of Gilgamesh. They all contain important details, revealing the real location of the sanctuary of the Anunnaki in the sense of the ancient Eastern thought and cosmology. What Lipinski finds that is actually the Old Babylonian version of the Epic Gilgamesh identifies Mount Hermon in Lebanon as the dwelling of the Anunnaki. He underlines 12 to 21 of the Old Babylonian Gilgamesh, which narrate the destruction of Humbaba, guardian of the proclamation of the gods. After Gilgamesh and his companion Enkidu penetrated the forest and opened the sacred sanctuary and abode of the Anunnaki. In later mythologies, of course, we have different locations for the Anunnaki home. Lipinski explains that the oldest texts of Mesopotamia and the Near Eastern Canaan point to the cedar forest in the mountain Hermon. Lipinski also points out that the mountain was very important. He says it is a cosmic mountain that connects heaven and earth. The same concept is hidden in an episode from the Book of Enoch, in which the sons of God, the heavenly beings, gather on the top of Mount Hermon because this is the mountain of the gods. Hermon Peak is located at the southern end of the Anti-Lebanon mountain chain, crossing the borders of Syria and Lebanon. The highest peak of Hermon reaches 2,832 meters, and the area abounds in ancient altars and sanctuaries. Interestingly, some of them were used in the time of Constantine the Great. When the Anunnaki arrived, they could live for thousands of years, as they set up gold mining station called Eriduk, Earth Station 1 in the Persian Gulf, under the leadership of Enki. The curious thing is that they were not alone, and they did take someone, another race. They called them Ijiji, who worked like slaves and mined gold for the Anunnaki. And these stories coincident with the Babylonian plates from the 18th century BC. After a long time, centuries of work, Ijiji decides to oppose their masters, thinking they have any chance at all to oppose them. Guess what? They're brutally mistaken. The defeat destroys almost the whole race, and this leaves the Anunnaki with no workforce. thinking of new options, the master of all Anu orders his son Enki to create a genetically new race of slaves that is intelligent enough to cope with technological work, but at the same time to obey the Anunnaki. A ton of experiments eventually led to a successful result: hybrid between caveman Homo erectus and the Anunnaki themselves. The hybrid we know very well today, known as Homo sapiens. The plates describe the first such hybrid or man as Adamu. In Hebrew, Adamu means human. Anunnaki continued their work by placing Homo sapiens in the mines of Mesopotamia. The Semitic word avot literally means working for someone or something. According to these ancient texts, the Anunnaki, who we know have lived for thousands of years, are even quite taller than Homo sapiens, practically straight giants. Because the meaning of their existence was to serve the Anunnaki, they in return learned many social and technological skills. Since Homo sapiens reduced, it was necessary that they could reproduce, which later led to overpopulation, and most of those who had been evicted from their homes began to tell the story of the Garden of Eden and that they were ousted from heaven on earth. As time goes on, our civilization becomes more and more intelligent, and some of the Anunnaki were in contact with the people. The result of these love interactions were called Nephilims. According to the Bible, the Nephilims, the fallen ones, were the offspring of sexual relations between sons of God and human daughters. One of the most mentioned ancient texts that describe the Nephilim is the Book of Enoch, which is believed to have been written by the patriarch Enoch, son of Jared, father of Methuselah. Today, this book is considered an apocryphal text and it's rejected by most Christian churches, but it hasn't been always like this. Many of the early church fathers, such as Athenagoras, Clement of Alexandria, Irenaeus, and Tertullian, have taken parts of this book. Fragments of it in Aramaic were found among the Dead Sea Scrolls. Judah, in his own gospel, quotes the Book of Enoch. It is believed that the New Testament has at least several hundred references from its records. The plates say that all this enraged the Anunnaki leader Enlil, who is the brother of Enki, and he wanted to ensure that no one would ever reach to the strength and potential to rule Nibiru, but that was beyond his control. The human civilization had grown so much that forced nature to intervene to maintain balance. During one of these cycles at 3600 BC, Nibiru's orbit created catharsis or devastation on the sun and earth. Nibiru is called the Destroyer in the Colburn Bible, which is a collection of ancient texts hidden for centuries. It is believed to have been written by various authors. The descriptions sound more scientific than a myth. For example, inside it says that the cause of the global flood was a comet strike and more. People forgot the days of the destroyer. Only the wise know where he went and that he'll return at a certain time. The destroyer, its bright color and the ferocious and ever-changing appearance, a cruel body of flames. The plates describe exactly one catastrophic event that happened when Nibiru approached the planet Earth. First, black spots appeared on the surface of the sun, the magnetic field on Earth became much weaker and the ice began to melt. This event, of course, we know today as the Great Flood. For many days before the Great Flood, the Earth suffered as if it was in great pain. Many nights before the disaster, in the heavens Nibiru was seen as a shining star. Apparently the ruler knew about this cycle and what would happen. That's why he leaves the planet Earth, seeing the opportunity to erase the unworthy, according to him, of course. but many of the Anunnaki decided to stay next to the people, watching the Great Flood in their heavenly boats, as they describe them, circling the Earth. At this time, the great glaciers of the South Pole are melting and falling into the ocean. This forms a multitude tsunamis from the north to the gold mines in Africa. The flood continues until it reaches the city of the gods, one of the first places where the Anunnaki lived, and now perhaps located somewhere at the bottom of the Persian Gulf. Seeing the cataclysm, Enki felt concerned for their own creatures and instructed his chosen ones to build boats to survive the flood. One of the chosen that leads humanity to a new age, as you may have guessed, is Noah and his family. The big storm with the heavy rains started, the waves were wild and did not stop for 7 days until they finally calmed. But the rains lasted another 40 days and nights, and the story of the Great Flood is recorded in almost every civilization on our planet. After the flood, the plates tell how the Anunnaki built their buildings in complete compliance with the location of the stars. When the Anunnaki left the planet Earth, their legacy was literally scattered throughout the planet, Mesopotamia, India, and South America as their last gift to humanity, of course, the Sumerian civilization. According to Zecharia Sitchin, the mass exodus of the Anunnaki took place about 6,000 years ago. Before they left, they decided to give humanity a final impetus, which partly explains the emergence of the Sumerian civilization, which is extremely intelligent, cultured, and erudite for its time, as if it came out of nowhere. But was it really out of nowhere? The Anunnaki taught the Sumerians their way of life and created royal dynasties. The king acted as their messenger on earth and had the task to rule his people. This chosen bloodline was additionally enhanced by the genes of the Anunnaki, and they were trained in medicine, mathematics, astronomy, and technology development. This theory, of course, has been met with great skepticism by science, and in support of his theory, Sitchin relies on several ancient manuscripts and discoveries. The Babylonian epic of creation Enuma Elish tells how our solar system was formed. According to this epic, the Earth did not yet exist when a wandering planet called Nibiru was captured by the gravitational field of the Sun. Then, Nibiru collided with Tiamat, a planet that once was located between Mars and Jupiter. Of course, there are also many artifacts of extraterrestrial origin, such as the Baghdad batteries or the Saqqara bird. According to Sitchin, these artifacts are due to a very ancient and very advanced civilization. We also have the proof of the gold processing of the Anunnaki discovered in Mount Hare by Flinders Petrie in 1889. Archaeological excavations in the ancient Mesopotamian city of Nineveh have revealed 400 intact clay tablets from the Ashurbanipal library. These tablets describe in details the activities of the Anunnaki. The tablets show the location of genetic laboratories of the Anunnaki in Central and East Africa. The location of these labs and the time they have functioned amazingly aligns with the views of modern science about the origin of the first modern people. And even more interesting is that in these areas they have discovered gold mines more than 100,000 years old. One of the tablets depicts the solar system just as we know it today. But how is it possible to have had knowledge of objects so far from our land, given that they have just discovered agriculture and the wheel, for example? The tablet dates back 5,000 years before we realized that the planets move around the sun. And when we talk about the first telescope, we know that in 1608, the glasses manufacturer Hans Lippershey requests the first patent in the Netherlands for an instrument that sees far. Although he may not be the first man to ever build something like a telescope, he is considered the inventor of the telescope because he was the first to apply for a patent. Lippershey's device and others such as Jake Metlow's device could zoom objects only about 3 times. It took the efforts of the famous Italian scientist Galileo Galilei, who built a better telescope and used it, of course, to study the stars. Galileo learned about the new device in 1609, and without seeing it, he created his version. But how so without any means they knew with accuracy the layout of the solar system and the stars? The Anunnaki passed on their knowledge to the Sumerians and created monarchs. The kings ruled as their representatives on earth and respected, noticed. It is believed that the royal bloodlines were genetically made by the Anunnaki, and some speculate that exactly they successfully have managed to control humanity precisely through these chosen blood connections for millennia. Others claim that when the planet Nibiru approaches Earth again, they will return to continue their reign. And that would pretty well explain the well-kept secrets around the history of the entire Sumerian civilization. Was the human civilization really created by the Anunnaki gods?
Well, you've reached the end of the video. If you are interested in learning more about similar topics, here you will find other really interesting videos from the channel. Thanks for watching this video. Click on the like button if you enjoyed it, and do not forget to subscribe in case you didn't. See you on the next one.